Today I'm just going to tell you a little story about how there was a time in my life when I was lost and how Neil deGrasse Tyson, Bader Ginsburg, and a father in Syria who I've never met before helped me find my way home. Okay, in Tamil, Amama means mother's mother. This is me and my Amama. My Amama spent her life caring for injured animals and feeding poor children on the streets of Calcutta. She couldn't have cared less about the recognition or reward. She believed in a life of service, and she made me want to live a life of service as well by helping those with less. Growing up in the 80s, I was often treated differently because of the color of my skin. I read about Martin Luther King and Mahatma Gandhi and their peaceful fight for civil liberties. They lived a life of service, and they also inspired me to live a life of service by fighting against discrimination. And for a while, I did okay. As a teenager, I volunteered at hospitals and nursing homes. In my 20s, I traveled to India and worked in orphanages there, and then traveled to Madagascar and did some rural development projects in Madagascar. I have to say that these were some of my happiest memories. But then things started to change. First, there was 4 years of undergrad, and then a big fight to get into medical school, then 4 years of medical school. Finally, a 6-year surgery residency where I frequently worked over 100 hours a week, doing work that was stressful in a workplace that was quite hostile. And something inside of me broke. My desire to serve was fading. I figured that when I became a surgeon, things would start to turn around. Only they didn't. Now I was working longer hours to pay off my massive student line of credit. I took every complication as a personal failure. My frustration grew, my reserves were depleted, and I felt alone. My desire to serve was now a distant memory. Then one night I saw an interview with Neil deGrasse Tyson. He was talking about the cosmic perspective, the idea that there are 10 to the power of 80 atoms in the universe, and how small the chance are that those atoms would come together to form you. The philosopher Ali Benazir calculates the odds of you existing at all at 1 in 10 to the power of 2.685 million. Crappy odds. Around that time, I read an article about a Syrian father during the Civil War. He spent his whole day trying to find food, medication, and clean drinking water for his family. We looked the same, similar age, and he was probably smarter than me. But where he struggled to survive, all I had to do to succeed was wake up in the morning and go to work. Why did I have so much when he had so little? To have what I have, I had to be born in the right place and to the right people. What were the chances of that? Here the world is all lit up, 8 billion people. But how many were born healthy, to caring parents, with access to food, security, and clean drinking water? What about healthcare and education? Let's do some fancy napkin math. That's my specialty. Of 195 countries on Earth, only 5 are full democracies that also have socialized education and healthcare. That's 0.8% of the world's population. The world is a lot darker. Of the infinitesimally small chance of having been born in the first place, I was also born with more than most people on Earth. I know I look grumpy in this picture, but this is really my thinking face. If I'm being honest, I didn't do anything special to be born into this position. So surely I was obliged to pay it back, or I guess pay it forward. I call this my cosmic line of credit. The late and very great Ruth Bader Ginsburg once said that a meaningful life is one where you live not for yourself, but for your community. A true professional does something to repair the tears in their community by helping those less fortunate. It kind of felt like she was speaking directly to me about a life of service. And with her words, I was no longer lost. Reading her words was a real Control-Alt-Delete moment for me. A chance to reset the arc of my life, a chance to pay back my enormous cosmic line of credit through service. And so I got to work. I focused on 3 areas: advocating for people living with obesity, supporting refugees, and improving surgical care for my patients. Quick side note, why do I fight for people living with obesity? Science says obesity is a disease, but for some bewildering reason, our society still thinks it's a your fault problem. Obesity is a disease you wear, so people live their whole lives with stigma and discrimination. I was treated differently as a child because of how I looked. No one else needs to be treated that same way. This is legendary NFL coach Andy Reid. He builds dynasty teams. I couldn't accomplish my goals alone, so I channeled my inner Andy. I recruited people that were much more talented than myself, because people on my teams also want the chance to pay down their cosmic line of credit, and so we all do it together. This is my bariatric team. They help dispel the myth that obesity is a your-fault problem for lazy people. They promote the science. They preach compassion over discrimination. The team's advocacy efforts have led to a 450% increase in surgery over the past decade in British Columbia. This is my OR team, and below that, my senior leadership team. We believe in two things. The average day in the OR for us is the most vulnerable day in our patient's life. And until we can guarantee every patient a perfect, complication-free recovery, we can never stop innovating or improving. With these surgical teams, we have virtually eliminated postoperative complications from colon cancer surgery, which used to be one of the most morbid surgeries. The team has also introduced new bariatric surgery techniques that cure diabetes up to 90% of the time and have saved the healthcare system millions. These are both firsts in Western Canada. A few years ago, I started a charity that supports marginalized populations through culinary social enterprise. Tabitha is our chef and executive director. She's from the Mohawk Nation and one of the best people I know. Without Tabitha and this team, the project would still be a pipe dream. But with them, we've started a food truck, a catering company, and we train and employ people escaping the war in the Ukraine. Donate all profits to local charities. Now you're looking at my gratitude face. By considering my cosmic perspective, I have discovered gratitude. And by trying to pay down my cosmic line of credit, I've found purpose. My hope for healthcare workers and people in general is to consider their cosmic perspective, because there are few things better than a life filled with gratitude and purpose. And in case I ever forget my cosmic good fortune, I have these three beauties. One was hit by a car as a puppy, one had both eyes removed at age 2, and one was abandoned at birth. Despite everything, they love unconditionally, and so in their own way, they still live a life of service. My Amama would have loved them very much. I think she would have liked Chichia too. Thank you. I'm going to break the rules for 1 second here, and I apologize, but I have to talk about the elephant in the room. Sharadh is actually a very uncommon Hindu name, and somehow there are two of us on the stage tonight. What are the chances of two people named Sharadh, both from British Columbia, on this stage tonight? I did the math. It's 1 in 25 billion. Kid you not.